Hey everyone, and welcome. So back in 2017, Taiwan did something huge. They brought in a landmark no-kill policy for their animal shelters. On the surface, it was this incredible leap forward for animal welfare. But what happens after you stop the clock? Today, we're going to dig into the really complex, unintended fallout of this humane policy and the massive problems still facing Taiwan's stray dog.
All right, so here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with the big promise behind no kill. Then we'll pull back the curtain on the hidden crisis it accidentally created in the shelters. From there, we'll get into the unexpected clash with local wildlife, trace the whole problem back to its real source, and then, finally, we'll ask, all right, where do we go from here?
Okay, so to really get what's happening now, we've got to rewind a bit and look at two huge moments. The whole journey really started back in 1998 with the Animal Protection Act. But the real game changer? That came in 2017, when the no-kill policy officially went into effect across the entire island.
You know, the idea behind this was just so good, so humane. For years, if a stray ended up in a public shelter, it was put on this awful 12-night countdown. If nobody adopted it in that time, it was put down. This new policy was meant to stop that, to give every single healthy animal a real shot at life.
So you'd think, wow, amazing. A huge win for animal welfare, right? A kinder, more compassionate system was finally here. But what actually happened in the years after that? Well, it got a lot more complicated than anyone ever expected.
So, the first big unintended consequence? It started brewing right inside the shelters themselves, the very places that were supposed to be safe havens. Instead of becoming places of hope, they started drowning in a whole new, impossible reality.
And this is where things get really strange. If you look at the official government data, it looks like there's no problem at all. Most shelters are listed as being under their optimal capacity. But then you talk to anyone actually working on the ground, the vets, the staff, the volunteers, and they tell a completely different story. A story of just constant, soul-crushing overcrowding and burnout.
So what gives? Why are the official stats so misleading? Well, a few big reasons. First, capacity is literally just about the number of cages, not the number of people there to actually care for the animals. Plus, a lot of animals get moved to these off-site adoption stations, so they don't show up in the official count. And here's the big one. A huge number of animals just get shipped off to private, often unregulated dog farms. And who's dealing with all this? Underpaid, overworked staff who are leaving in droves.
And this quote from Dr. Huang, a veterinarian on the front lines, it just cuts right to the heart of it. Because there's no euthanasia, the dogs that are older or sicker or just not as cute, the ones that get passed over again and again, they just stay in the shelters forever. They take up space, they take up resources, and that makes it harder to care for the new animals coming in. It just creates this heartbreaking, vicious cycle.
This chart tells you a huge part of the story. Those high adoption rates you sometimes see, they can be a total illusion. Look at this. In Chai, a whopping 70% of adoptions are really just mass transfers to private shelters or dog farms. It's not solving the problem, it's just hiding it somewhere else, often in places with even less oversight.
But this crisis isn't staying behind the shelter walls. It's spilling out into Taiwan's beautiful national parks and nature reserves, and it's creating a brand new and really urgent conflict between stray dogs and native wildlife.
Just look at this number. It is absolutely devastating. It's the collapse of the Formosan moonshag population, a small native deer in Shaoshan National Nature Park. In just one decade, their numbers have crashed by over 92%. And the primary suspect? Attacks from packs of stray dogs.
And it's not just the muntjac, not by a long shot. The damage is spreading. For the endangered pangolin, dog attacks are now a bigger threat than illegal traps. For the super rare leopard cat, it's diseases that dogs carry, like parvo. Other small animals are literally changing how they live, when they eat, where they go, just to try and avoid these roaming dog packs.
This chart just makes it painfully clear. Since 2018, right after the no-kill policy really got going, dog attacks have become the #1 reason that endangered pangolins need to be rescued. It's a tragic irony. In our effort to save one group of animals, we've put another in great danger.
And on top of all of that, there's a serious public health risk kind of ticking in the background. Rabies exists in Taiwan's wild ferret badger population. With more stray dogs interacting and, fighting with these wild animals, experts are seriously worried the virus could jump to the dog population. And from there, it's a very short bridge to humans. Okay, so shelters are maxed out, wildlife is in trouble, which leads to the million-dollar question. Where are all of these dogs coming from in the first place? Let's follow the trail back to the real root of the problem.
Check this out. The data here tells a really interesting and kind of sad story. As shelters got full and it became harder to officially surrender your pet, the number of people doing that went down. But at the exact same time, the number of people finding and reporting strays went up. You can kind of read between the lines there, right? It suggests people were just abandoning their pets and then pretending they just found them.
So it all comes back to this. The root of the problem isn't the dogs, it's us. It's a whole bunch of human behaviors. It's irresponsible owners, it's really low rates of pet registration and neutering, it's the huge number of dogs that actually have owners but are just allowed to roam free and have puppies. And yeah, it's this awful fake rescue, real abandonment thing.
And Ray, the director of that really powerful documentary 12 Nights, which exposed the old system, she just nails it. You can't fix a cultural problem with just a policy change. As long as the basic culture around owning a pet, how you get one, how you treat it, how you take responsibility for it, doesn't change, the problem's just going to continue. So, understanding the problem is one thing, but what do we actually do about it? How does Taiwan even begin to fix the situation that started with such good intentions but has gone so wrong?
And believe me, trying to find a solution is a huge, passionate debate. On one side, you have conservation groups saying we need to act fast in these sensitive areas, remove the dogs, maybe even bring back humane euthanasia as a tool. But on the other side, animal welfare groups push back hard. They argue that things like high-intensity neutering work and that you need public support, which you only get with humane methods. But here's the thing. While everyone's debating, we actually have some solid data on what works. Just look at this. In cities that went all in on aggressive, high-intensity neutering programs, also known as TNVR for trap, neuter, vaccinate, and return, the results have been stunning. An 87% drop in stray-related calls in Taipei, a 98% drop in puppies coming into the Keelung shelter. This strategy works because it tackles the problem at the source. So, what it comes down to is this. There is no magic wand here. No single fix. The only way forward, according to many experts, is to attack the problem from all sides at once. It starts with controlling the source, making sure every single pet is registered and neutered. It means managing the problem scientifically, using those big TNVR programs, but also removing dogs from those really sensitive ecological areas. And it means reforming the whole system, so shelters are better run and all the different groups actually work together.
Look, at the end of the day, that no-kill policy was huge. It was a massive step. But it was only ever going to be the first step. A law can't fix a problem that's really rooted in thousands of individual daily human choices. The only real, lasting solution has to come from a huge shift in how society as a whole thinks about its responsibility to animals.
Which kind of leaves us with one big final question. The law was changed to reflect a better, more compassionate ideal. But have our hearts and our minds, the actual culture of pet ownership, and our relationship with the animals on our streets, have they really caught up? And that right there might be the hardest problem of all to solve.